The first story is as follows. So I'm an 18 years old male. I was born completely deaf and mute. Also, I'm partially blind in my left eye. I've lived with my sister, who's 28 years old, who's been taking care of me since her parents died. Recently, she got married and went on her honeymoon, so I'm on my own for a few weeks. This happened yesterday. Usually, whenever I go out, I'm accompanied by my sister due to my disability. But now, since she's on her honeymoon, I had to go out alone. There was a new supermarket that opened in our area and I needed some items, so I decided to go there and grab them. It was my bad for wearing a red-colored shirt almost similar to the employees working there. But if you look closely, you could see that it was not the uniform. I was at the electronics section looking for some batteries when I see an old man struggling to get some DVDs from the top shelf. Since I'm tall, I helped him, and he thanked me and went on his way. Then I began looking for the batteries. That's when I felt someone grab my left wrist. I turned around and a woman in her late 40s smacked me. She was speaking something, but I couldn't follow her lips as she spoke too fast. However, I was able to catch some words like you, ignore, job, etc. So I signed to her that I'm deaf. Apparently, this was the wrong move because she became more irate towards the signs. Again, she was yelling something, but I couldn't catch anything. So I took my notebook and started writing down that I'm deaf and mute. Before I could finish, she grabbed my notebook and pen and threw them away. She then slapped me again and pushed me. Luckily, by this time, a store employee came to see what the commotion was about. He saw me on the ground and helped me up. He then asked what happened. Before I can sign to him, Karen starts to yell at the employee. After she finished, I signed to the employee that I cannot hear or speak. Then I wrote down and showed the employee to call the cops on her. The employee nodded and called the cops, and Karen tried to run away, but the security caught her. The police arrived in about 10 minutes. They first talked to the employee who explained the situation about how Karen assaulted me because she mistook me for a store employee. One police officer comes and speaks to me. I understand that he wanted my version of the events, so I wrote everything down and showed it to the officer. Then they went to check the CCTV footage. Then they came back and asked me if I wanted to press charges, and I gladly said yes. Karen was shocked and placed in handcuffs and given a free ride at the back of the police cruiser. The manager then explained to me that Karen thought I worked there and she became angry that I ignored her and wonders if I can drop the charges for that mistake. She had been standing on my left side, so I obviously couldn't see her. The store manager then offered me a 50% discount on the products. And I texted my sister about the events that happened and she was livid. Oh, and did I mention that my sister is a lawyer? She told me herself that she'll be handling the case to see that Karen would get maximum time. Court date is around 40 days. I'll update after the court. The next story is titled as Update. The We Are Entitled to Silence. Downstairs Neighbors. So a couple weeks back, I posted about the old people who live downstairs from me who called the cops because my cat was running around and the microwave being used at 10:30 at night, and then proceeded to tell me that they are entitled to silence whenever they wanted it. Well, they've started branching out to other people and also now have added a healthy dash of racism into their vocabulary. 1. Across the street is a large Hispanic family with lots of kids and a grandma who sits out on the front porch with her little lap dog. The dog barks. A lot. Yes, the yappy little barks are annoying, but she's not out there all the time, and she has every right to enjoy sitting on her front porch for a bit with her obviously well-loved dog. Yes, the kids run around screaming when they have their inflatable pull-up in the backyard, but most of the time they keep it to a reasonable kids having fun noise. 2 days ago, these folks were having a get-together. Nothing loud or crazy, just a normal backyard barbecue, and it was around 8 p.m. when I hear, "Shut that damn dog up and be quiet, or I'll call the cops." And then in a lower voice, "Those people are a damn nuisance and nobody should have to deal with their kind. They aren't even speaking English." 2. One of the 4 apartments in my building is occupied by a very nice man who is friends with or related to the folks across the street. He's over there a lot. Anyway, he has a motorcycle that he works on in his parking spot and goes for rides on nice days. He also likes to sit in his car after work and smoke a joint. I overheard the old lady saying he's one of those motorcycle gang people and he's out there doing drugs. He's obviously a criminal. Most of these Mexicans are. And then, if he doesn't stop driving that motorcycle and doing drugs, I'm going to call the cops. 3. And once again I hear the words, "We are entitled to silence when we want silence," shouted from out of their open window. Note that the threat of cops being called on the people across the street was at 8 p.m. on a Saturday night. It wasn't even dark yet. They weren't playing music or screaming or anything, just talking and laughing and having fun. The threat to the other tenant was on Sunday afternoon. At this exact moment, it is 11:30 p.m. I am in my bedroom and I can hear them talking downstairs. If I felt like actually making the effort, I would stomp on the floor and shout, "Shut up, I'm trying to sleep," but it's really not worth the effort right now. The next story is as follows. A couple of years ago, I stopped at the Lowe's to exchange my empty propane tank. I had just finished securing a new one in my trunk when I heard a shout from across the parking lot. Excuse me, can you help?" I looked up and saw a middle-aged woman having trouble getting a microwave that she just bought into her trunk. No problem, so I went over and helped her. The microwave wasn't too heavy and it fit perfectly into her car. She thanked me. I nodded and started to walk away. I was a few feet from her car when I heard her say, "Aren't you going to take my cart back up there?" I turned around and saw her pointing at her shopping cart, and she said, "Take my cart." I was started to get a little agitated and said, "Oh, you know I don't work here, right?" She said, "Yeah, I know, but you should still be a gentleman and take my cart." I replied and said, "No, I was helping you out with a microwave, but I'm not about to take my cart now," she yelled, pointing to the store. Okay, whatever. I didn't want to get into an argument in the middle of a Lowe's parking lot. So, I sighed, walked back to her, and took her cart. I started to bring it back towards the store, but this did not quite sit right with me. I was okay with helping her with the microwave, but she was certainly capable of doing this part of the job. If people always do this kind of thing for her, she'll never learn her lesson. I was about 10 feet away from her when I decided to stop pushing the cart back and wait for her to get into the car. As soon as she shut the door, I turned around, walked back to her parking spot, and left that shopping cart right behind her car so she couldn't leave without getting out and moving it herself. I hope that wonderful lady is having the best of luck with her microwave. The next story is as follows. So I'm a delivery driver for a major food delivery company in a major college town in Texas where everybody loves maroon. Normally, it's not bad. It pays pretty well, and the customers are generally fine, though you always have idiots in every service job. This, however, surpassed anything I've ever experienced before. I get an order alert on my phone, relatively simple but expensive order from a restaurant nearby. In the portion for delivery instructions, the customer explains that I need to call her once I arrive, as ringing the doorbell would disturb her autistic son. Okay, no problem at all. I received therapy for sensory issues when I was a kid, so I'm gonna be even more sympathetic to that than the average person. I receive the order and drive over to the house, which is in a nice part of town. I give the customer a call. A young woman answers, tells me to come up to the door, and I do so, and then enters the entitled mother, who, strangely, was fairly attractive and did not have the typical hair and haircut. I said, "Here's your order, ma'am. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" She responds, "Yes, my son, he's autistic, and people like you don't understand how difficult it is to raise him. I shouldn't have to pay this much for food. Can you give me a discount?" Me, baffled, said, I'm sorry, ma'am, but the app calculates your order total, not me. It's already been paid for." The entitled mother did not like that answer. Her face changed from a smug snarl into a snarl. "I suppose I didn't realize how ridiculous the idea that people would pay for their own food is," she says. "Well, why don't you pay for it then? I'm not sure if you heard, but my son, he's autistic. Don't let him go hungry." I told her, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but that goes against our policy. If I'd paid for your order, I'll probably be fired." And she says, "Good, you're a useless driver anyway. You're disgusting. My son is starving to death. Since I've had to go through so much trouble with you, you should tip me." I told her, "I can't do that, ma'am, and here's your order." I dropped the food gently on the ground between us and jogged back to my car. She was shouting something unintelligible, but I couldn't make out what she was saying. Unsurprisingly, she gave me a 1-star review. I contacted support about it the next day and told them that, "Yeah, I had a crazy lady yesterday that started demanding that I pay for her order and even that I tip her." I tell them the order number and the address. And the service rep says, "Yikes, you're the third person to complain about her. 1 or 2, I'll take with a grain of salt, but 3, you're probably out. I'll try to get her deactivated. If so, her review will be off your record." I feel like the entire world is better off now that she won't get deliveries from us anymore. That remains to be seen. The next story is as follows. So today, my husband and I were feeling bored and adventurous and decided to make a pilgrimage to a posh coffee bar in our city. We've been meaning to go for months but never got around to it. We pull in the lot and it's packed, 10:45 a.m. on a Sunday, so we expected it. As I'm getting out of the car, a mumby next to me is struggling to get 3 kids out of their seats while her husband stood by the front of the car watching, not helping. I hop out and excuse myself and walk into the cafe with my husband. There's a huge line. 2 more people coming after us, and then the mummy and her horde. She immediately starts complaining about the line. She complains loudly to her husband at first, but when he is clearly ignoring her, she decides to complain to thin air. She's saying stuff like, "Why is this line always so long? God, why don't they have any more staff? Why does every person have to come at the same damn time? Ah!" She eventually asks the couple in front of her if she can go ahead because her kids are really hungry. These saints begrudgingly say sure, so now they're directly behind my husband and I. She then says to me, "Excuse me, miss, may we have the spot before you in line? My children have been waiting a long time and are very hungry." With the nicest voice I could find, I said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we've been waiting for a while too and are also hungry. The line is moving faster now at least." I gave her a smile even though she was glaring at me. I turned back around only to hear her mutter, "Wow, what a bitch. Can you believe some people? How rude." It took all my effort not to react. My husband is a conflict avoider, but I'm not. But I respect his wishes enough not to cause a scene in public when I'm with him. Eventually, she starts telling her husband how they're always out of the spinach breakfast sandwich she wants. And she better get it this time or she's gonna be pissed. This is when I concoct a seriously evil plan. I check my watch and it's 10:55. A minute or 2 later, it's her turn. Husband orders his soy chai and I slowly order my vanilla nitro cold brew with cream. Or no, not cream, sorry, with soy. And an extra pump of vanilla. The barista rings us up, and as I check my watch, it's 10:58. I asked to add the Mediterranean spinach breakfast sandwich to the order. She said sure, no problem. She gives us a total, and I'm digging through my purse for my wallet, and darn, I just can't seem to find it. More digging. Oh, there it is, finally. I hand her the card, wait for the receipt, and slowly sighing. I pack my purse back up, say thank you, and walk away. Husband says, "You are hungry? We just ate breakfast an hour ago." I told him, "I'm not hungry, I just had to do this." And he asked, "Do what?" I nod towards the mombi, and the husband looks over. And she orders her coffee and some juice things for the kids. She doesn't even ask her husband if he wants anything. And then it happened. She says, "And one Mediterranean spinach breakfast sandwich." The barista responds, "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. We just sold the last sandwich and breakfast stops at 11. We have all of our lunch options today, though." The mombi looks at her watch and yells, "What? Are you kidding me? It's 11:02. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but the company policy is to stop breakfast at 11. Is there anything else I can get you?" At this point, the zombie is screaming and says, "Get me your manager. This is ridiculous. You just sold one a moment ago. This is absurd." The manager came over, explained the situation, and apologized, but he refused to give in to make her a new sandwich. Bless her heart. The mombi reacts the entire order and stomps out. She's red-faced and yelling to her car. My husband was trying to hold back his laughter. Our order came up, and we grabbed it and went back to the car. I'm unwrapping the sandwich and take a bite exactly as I'm trying to scoot around her and say, "Oh, excuse me, ma'am. I'm just gonna sneak by you real quick." And she's glaring at me. The worst death stare I've ever gotten. I get in the car and unwind the windows ever so slightly. It's a hot day today, right? I slowly unwrap the rest of the sandwich and take a few more bites, passing it to my husband. As soon as she pulled away, we burst into laughter. The next story is titled as "More Tales from a Goodwill Manager." Adding an asterisk for people who never read my previous post. So the only reason I was allowed to get away with speaking to customers like this was at the time in the region this happened in. I was literally the only person who knew how to manage the online sales for the entire region of stores. I could get away with damn near anything, and there was exactly fuck all anyone could really do about it. Today's tale of audacity comes once again from the halls of Goodwill Industries, Valhalla of entitled assholes everywhere. I had just put out a new cart of items before the store opened, as I usually did. I'm an early bird, and I truly loved sorting through all the donations. I've been a junker since birth. Anyway, every morning, I'd get in about an hour early so I had the place to myself. I'd bring my tea, sort out a new cart, and make sure there was new stuff out. This particular morning, there was a large collection of hats. Men's, women's, all various kinds. This is the key for later. So I opened the store and went about my day, until this particular group of nasty old Karens comes in. I dealt with them on several occasions. They always came in a group, and always had something to complain about or just generally be pains in the ass. Today would be their most offensive display yet. So I stop what I'm doing and go behind the register, so I can both keep an eye on them and not subject my employees to their nonsense. One of these wild Karens immediately goes for the hats, the very ones I just put out. I watch this grown-ass woman in at least her 70s go through, find one she likes, and putting on her head. No big deal, she's just wearing it up to the register, I figure. So they go about their shopping, bitching about this, that, and the other. Where's the new stuff? Why don't you have? Why don't you have a bathroom? All form and manner of stupidity. Then it was checkout time. First Karen checks out, complains about no senior discount despite being told by me personally at least half a dozen times. Maybe she figures I'll magically find one someday. Next Karen goes through without an issue. Now comes Hat Karen. I ring her up, then ask for the hat she's wearing so I can ring it in as well. This old bitch has the fucking audacity to say, "Oh, this is my hat." I look at her incredulously and ask, "Really? So you wore that in, huh?" "Yes, I did, and I don't like what you're implying." "Oh, I'm not implying. I flat out telling you you're a liar and a thief. I personally put that hat out for sale today before anyone else was even here." "No, you're wrong. This is my hat." "Yeah, she wore that to my house yesterday." "You do know we have security cameras, right? Would you like to see when you put it on your head?" "Oh, I must have been confused. I have one just like it. How much could it really be anyway?" "It's $19.99 now." "What? You can't do that. Where's your manager?" I pull my little name tag off, show Karen where it in fact says manager. "Unfortunately for you, I am the manager. Even more unfortunate, I literally watched you put it on your head, so now you're not buying any of this. You're banned from my store, and I'll be reporting this to the main office." "You can't do that." "No, I need this stuff. You can't ban me." "Now you're both banned. Would the rest of you like to join this too?" So they stood, squawking like ducks for a few minutes, until they realized I wasn't going to ring them up. Then the first two of the group speak up. "Well, then we aren't shopping here either. I want a refund." "Me too. You just lost good customers." "No, I lost a bunch of old ass pains in my ass who do nothing but complain. And unfortunately for you, look at the sign. There will be no refunds. Now, either get out, or I'll call the cops and trespass the whole bunch of you." They squeak and squawk a bit more, and then start to leave. However, we aren't done yet. Hat Karen tries to take the hat with her. I literally have to come around the counter and take it from her before she gets out the door. "I'm going to sue you and this whole place for harassment. Go ahead and try to find a lawyer that will listen to an old bat like you. I'll be here if you do. Thanks for shopping at Goodwill and never come back in my store, you old cow." Then close and lock the door, and went and ate my lunch. Never heard about it, but they did try to come back a few weeks later. But that's a whole other story.